Oh, good morning. Joining us right now, all the way from Paris this morning, Joe diGenova, legal analyst and former U.S. Attorney to the District of Columbia. Joe, always nice to talk to you, sir.
Good morning from Paris.
Good morning. Really nice to have you. Let's start with the fact that because you're in the news yet again. Politico with a report over the weekend. Forget Rudy. Here are Trump's fiercest defenders, where it says, starting Joseph diGenova and Victoria Tunsing, your wife, didn't quite make the cut to become President Donald Trump's attorneys in late March, but you'd be forgiven for thinking they're billing Trump by the hour and talking about how prominent you've become as defenders of the president and certainly his legal battles. I wonder, Joe, as we've talked to you all these many weeks, have you lost friendships over this? I mean, I imagine, you've been such a fierce advocate for the president in his legal fights, and I know that there must be some disagreement among the people you consider your colleagues.
Well, actually, none of my friends, I haven't lost any friendships over this. I think people that know me professionally or who think they know me have not said anything to me. I mean, obviously, there are people who disagree with the position that Victoria and I have taken. Although I must tell you that if you're a lawyer and you disagree with our position, you need to go back to law school, because what we're talking about are facts and inferences from facts that are matters of public record. But the point is, this is not about friendships. This is about a perfectly legitimate election that was won by Donald Trump under the rules of the Constitution. And from the very beginning of that victory, the Democrats and others have tried to delegitimize his presidency. Remember, they started by saying they didn't want the national electors to cast their votes in the states the way the law required them to. They filed lawsuits, and it was Hillary Clinton who refused to abide by the results of the election. And then, of course, our defense of the president is heartfelt, because he hasn't done anything wrong, and what was set in motion against him by senior Obama administration intelligence, FBI, and DOJ officials is a scandal of immense proportions, and it's all playing out through the IG reports and through the indictments that are coming. So I'm delighted to be defending the president, because he has been assaulted in a most unconstitutional way, and I've never been in a better fight.
Speaking of the IG report, Rudy Giuliani was out, and he said that James Comey could be prosecuted for his handling of that Clinton email probe based on this report that's coming out later this week.
Well, I think certainly that there needs to be a federal grand jury investigating the way the Hillary Clinton email server investigation was handled. There's no doubt that the IG report is going to show that the FBI and the Justice Department both violated all known standards of prosecutorial discretion and what is called the principles of federal prosecution. Whether or not what they did rises to the level of a crime will require a grand jury to determine who made the decisions and why they made them. There's no doubt at this point that there was an attempt to deny Donald Trump his civil rights, operating under color of law, as the federal officials in the Obama Justice Department and FBI did. That may very well be criminal. I certainly believe to my core that there is more than enough probable cause to believe that a grand jury is necessary. Whether or not anybody gets indicted over the server other than Hillary Clinton, I don't know.
I think we've heard the figure at this IG report that Michael Horowitz is set to release this Thursday is numbering at some 400 pages, I believe. What are you most looking forward to in this IG report?
Well, I'm looking forward to how the Inspector General is going to apply the standards for prosecution that James Comey said were not met based on all the facts in the case. His conclusion was idiotic, number one. There was no doubt that there was more than ample evidence to justify a prosecution of the former Secretary of State. And there's also no doubt that a decision was made by Comey and Lynch and others and senior and career people, let me underscore career people at the Department of Justice, that no case was going to be brought against her. So I expect that to be talked about, and I expect the political influence that played the major role in deciding not to prosecute her to play a major role. I think the politics of this the abuse of judgment, I expect that to be played out very carefully and broadly. And it will be the saddest moment and the most embarrassing moment in the history of the FBI and the Department of Justice, because what they did was they chose a candidate for president and they threw a case against her. They threw it. They literally, like dirty cops, threw the case against her so she could be elected president. Unfortunately, she lost, and therefore everything that they thought was going to be kept secret, if she were the president, no one, of course, be the same people in the Justice Department, no one would have ever found out about this. But she didn't win. Donald Trump won, and now we have what we have. And all in all, it's a national disgrace and a constitutional crisis, in my opinion.
Do you fear a watered-down, whitewashed version of this report coming out since so many people were allowed to have input into it?
Only if Rod Rosenstein has a role to play in it will it be watered down, because he is a careerist who believes very deeply that people in the Department of Justice can do no wrong, and he does everything he can to prevent from holding those people accountable. And he's done that over the years in various positions that he's held. He is known as a protector of the career people, a protector of the bureaucracy.
Yes.
If he isn't allowed to do that, I don't expect it to be watered down, because I don't think Horowitz would allow it. And since he's going to testify about his report, he will be asked about whether or not it was changed, and he would have to explain why. I don't expect him to make any changes of any merit.
Joe, real quickly here in our last minute, last week, James Wolfe, former Senate aide, a guy who handled a lot of intelligence for the Senate Intelligence Committee, was arrested and charged with lying to investigators about his contact with reporters. He maintained a relationship with at least one of them over several years. Is this evidence to you that Jeff Sessions is doing his job, and do you have renewed faith in the Attorney General over this?
Well, these are the easy ones. When the Attorney General set up the leak special unit to do the leaks, that was the least that you do in a situation like this. I'm delighted that they've brought a case. Let's see how many more they bring. The cases that I'm interested in are the ones that involve the interception, the leaking of the presidential telephone calls with foreign leaders, which occurred shortly after the president took office. Those were some of the most serious leaks in the history of the country. If people are prosecuted for those, I'll feel very good. If they're not, they will have done nothing worth reporting, because dealing with some slug up on the Senate Intelligence Committee who's having an affair with a reporter and is leaking her story is one thing. But if more comes out of that investigation, like who the other people were that he leaked to and what type of information was compromised, for example, Carter Page just got a new defendant for his civil suits, and that's this gentleman that used to work for the Intelligence Committee. But the stuff that matters is the unmasking and the leaking of the unmasking. That will tell me whether or not Jeff Sessions and Rod Rosenstein are serious. If they start prosecuting the people who illegally unmasked and then leak those names, that will show me they're doing their job.
Joe diGenova never stops paying attention, even when he's in France. Thank you, Joe. Really appreciate your insights this morning, sir.
Bonjour.
Safe trip back.